to the Villa Filler podcast. Here, my good friend Dan Wiseman. How you doing, Dan?
Good to be back, mate.
It's good to be back. Not so good performance last night. Not a really good result. But as we kind of touched on in the preview, weren't really expecting to get points from this week, were we?
Not really. It always looked like a tough one, and so kind of with that other game on Sunday to go, it looks like it's going to be kind of probably come out of this week empty-handed, which is a bit of a shame. But as I was saying last week, the run of 4 games that we had, starting with Newcastle up until Leicester, 4 points was the target that I set, and obviously we achieved that as soon as we left Old Trafford. So this week was kind of a bit of a free hit, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and I guess if we're trying to look at it positively, from a kind of different angle, Abraham and Mount scoring, 2 players that were in the Championship. Obviously we had Tammy, and Mount was at Derby. Good to see English players, I guess, performing well in the Premier League, isn't it?
Yeah.
Our 2 top goal scorers in the league are Jamie Vardy and Tammy Abraham.
Yeah, it's good, mate, and it's Chelsea have actually become, I think, a really likeable team, actually, because of it. I think a lot of people have kind of grown to like Chelsea. Frank's got them playing nice football. I thought yesterday, it probably wasn't their best performance. It certainly wasn't ours. But yeah, there was a lot of good talent on display. I thought Reece James was impressive. Obviously, he got an assist, and I think both the goals that Chelsea scored were entirely scored or assisted by players in the Championship last season. Obviously, James with the first goal, and so you like to see it. It's kind of showing the quality that's on display in the Championship, and the players that have come through are getting their chance, and you do like to see it. And obviously, there's a few players in our side as well, like Jack, who again probably didn't have his best game yesterday, but I thought still played very well. And so from that angle, there probably was a few positives in there.
Yeah, but looking at it from the Villa perspective, a player who played in the Championship last season, who we've praised a lot in recent weeks on the podcast, Ezri Konsa. I feel like for the first goal especially, he was caught the complete wrong side of Tammy trying to claim offside. I don't want to say out of character, because I guess we're still waiting to see what there is from Konsa, but it's little margins where I guess you can get away with it in the Championship, but not so much in the Premier League. It was kind of frustrating to see. Mount's goal was phenomenal again, but there was no sort of it was really poor from the midfield. I think McGinn should have been tracking him. It just hurt to see Tammy score, really, didn't it, mate?
It did, yeah, mate. It was inevitable, though, really. There's a kind of a few things in the week where wasn't he going to start? His hip problem was playing up, and he played well. And obviously, he didn't celebrate, which was kind of nice. But yeah, it was kind of hard to take, I have to say. But you touched on the midfield there, and I think it kind of reflects a wider problem, to be honest with you, that we saw yesterday. I think on midfield, kind of on a defensive end, we're quite disappointing yesterday. I think we passed through too easily. The press, it can be really effective at times, but I think the midfield, there's so many options where you can just cut through our midfield with a single pass, and it leaves the defence so exposed. I think, someone needs to be picking up Mason Mount, but I think a few of the midfielders need a rest. I think John McGinn is starting to look a little bit worn out, and I think that's starting to be why we perhaps haven't seen so many standout performances from him. I think he could do with a little time on the sideline. I didn't think Marv was too great either yesterday, to be honest with you. I thought when Douglas came on, we looked so much better. It wasn't obviously too long. He was on for, and he had that headed chance. But yeah, I think we're starting to see that potentially, as it wasn't really looking like at the start of the season, that perhaps Douglas is the superior player to Marvellous.
Yeah, I think he's taken his time to come into it, and obviously Nakamba's not really played for the past, I think it's first starting 3 games, but if you call back that before the international break, I think he last played. And I know I said on the pod that I thought it was a game for Marvellous, a game where we weren't really going to have a lot of the ball, so we needed someone to sort of break up the play, and he didn't really do that much. I'm going to put it down to his lack of minutes recently, but as you say, Luiz, when he came on, was very good. He had 1 or 2 chances, the header, which you don't expect from a man of his size.
Absolutely not.
I just think, it's very easy to, like, Luiz has been the scapegoat for most weeks, so I think I've not actually seen too much of people really giving him that much praise. But the game certainly changed when he came on, because you've got someone who's always looking for a forward pass. And there was 1 or 2 little things where he did what he tried to do against Brighton with the little sort of flicked up and high ball which obviously it didn't come off. But trying something different. But interestingly, what you said to me before we kind of rolled the cameras was you thought that we were worse in the second half. I just want to know why, because I actually thought that we had a bit more of the ball and we were sort of creating more in the second half, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I think it definitely towards the end we started to put the pressure on, but I thought we took so long to get out of the dressing room. Chelsea kind of established some dominance and could have scored a few. I think Tom come out with his head held high. What a save he made from that,
unbelievable,
that free kick. But he just had a wider good game, and to be honest with you, I've got to stop being so surprised by these performances, because he's so good, and with the way that Everton are playing, I think you could potentially look at him to be England's number one.
Yeah,
because Pickford is really struggling to keep up the goals over on Merseyside, and Tom had a good game. But going back to the second half, I thought, it just took a little while to get started. I thought when Douglas came on, we controlled possession a little bit better. I don't think we involved Wesley at all for the whole 90 minutes. I think that was kind of a problem that reflected in the second half as well. Yes, I think definitely did on a positive, and I think we were starting to really stay clear. I thought Douglas had scored that header, to be honest with you, because Kepa kind of dived into the net and I saw the net bulge, and I thought he perhaps got us an equaliser, but wasn't to be. But you're kind of left feeling we weren't the better team, and Chelsea probably did deserve to win the game, but it was only 2-1, and with the way that we played at the end, and obviously Anwar didn't play and Gilbert didn't play, and I think perhaps if we had those players at our disposal, then perhaps we could have taken something there.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really want to point fingers, but I sort of cursed at the commentator a few weeks back when we were at Wolves. Literally like a minute before Elmo scored, I said to my dad, Elmo's absolutely done for, and then he goes and scores. I didn't think Elmo was terrible yesterday, but I think it's games like this when you realise how good Gilbert is, and I actually thought Matt Targett didn't have a fantastic game himself either.
No.
But there's quite a few players I could point the finger to who I thought weren't up for it, but we win and lose together. Overall, the team didn't do enough to win the game, but it was a really nice movement for the goal. I felt this was Dino Ball in full swing. This is the kind of clips that Soccer AM had going around of like Brentford when they did like 55 passes or whatever, but it felt like that. And good Trezuget scored, and I've been told he's the first player since Tom Cleverley to score in 3 consecutive games for Aston Villa.
Wow!
Since back in 2015, so
there we go. Well done, Trez.
Still manages to score even though he's not really putting in great performances. I mean, no. I don't want to slander the guy because I think there's a player in Trez, but Wolves he didn't really do too much. Scored again, I saw on Twitter someone said he completed the perfect hat trick with how he headed it down and it came up off his foot and then hit his shin and went in all in one. But we only got 1 goal for it, Trez.
Yeah, you're right. He didn't have the best game yesterday. The hesitance to use his weak foot is quite detrimental at points, and there's so many opportunities where you do want to see him come in on that left foot, and he kind of comes in, it's sort of Quaresma style with the way that he tries to use his right foot. I think back to the chance for Grealish at Old Trafford, which he didn't score. Again, those Trezeguet kind of outside the footballs we see a lot, and it works against some teams, but when you've got really good defenders like Chelsea do, one-footed players like that, that they can read well, and they're very good, and they controlled him pretty well. But yes, it was a goal. It was slightly fortunate, to say the least. But no, mate, I thought Trez didn't have a particularly good game, but he's getting on the score sheet, and it's nice to know, as we were saying last week, that we do. I don't worry for goals now. I don't know about you. It's not. I thought at the start of the season, it was the defence which I would have complete confidence in, and it was where the goals were going to come from that I thought was going to be the problem. It seems to be the other way around now.
It's flipped, hasn't it?
Yeah. I want to talk about Ty again. Come on, Ty. Like so many instances yesterday, and I don't like to slander anyone. And he's a great player, so this isn't me saying that I don't rate him. But I'm actually starting to get quite frustrated now. In games, there are real moments when It's frustrating because it's not for lack of ability. I just think it's lackadaisical. And it's a shame that we don't have another England kind of an international break until I think it's the warm-up games over in March or something like that. Because I'd really like one in between them that he didn't get called up for.
Yeah.
So it kind of gave him, because I think there needs to be a reality check for Tyrone now. Something so that he just takes it back to basics, strips down his game, and just plays the fundamentals and doesn't try and be overconfident or over exuberant. Because we know when he does that, he's just a good defender above all else. He's a good centre back.
I think the frustrating thing is we've been saying for so long how good Mings is, and last season it was it's the Championship. This season, but he's not got in the England team. Gets in the England team, drops a few clangers here and there. I mean, he's been brilliant. I think in the Kosovo game, I think where he was sort of racially abused people like, wow, Mings, some player. But I think there was still one or two instances where he kind of, it's just signature Mings, isn't it? He's just too relaxed. And I rate that because I know as a centre back I wouldn't be as relaxed as he is. But it's because I know that's going to happen. Do you know what I mean? So it's frustrating because, especially when everyone's eyes are on him, and they have been for a long time. It's just frustrating, I think, for him more so than it is for us. Because we know how good Mings is, but the Burnley fans or the City or whoever who end up watching our game and see him drop one or two clangers like that, probably think, he's not as good as they've said.
Well, mate, this is the problem. I think actually, so I watched the game yesterday, and obviously with Mount and Grealish on the same pitch, it was a perfect chance. And a lot of the debate before the game was based on Mount or Grealish, who's the superior player. And with all eyes on, it's Mason that went and had the better game, I would say.
I'd say it was marginal. No, he did. A fantastic goal. Really got to put my hands up. Mason Mount, fantastic goal. Apart from that, he didn't really do a lot, and that's frustrating.
Yeah, it is, it's. Mount, I don't think he's as good as Grealish. I know I'm biased in saying that, but I think statistically, I think a lot of stats would back me up in that regard. I think Jack's got more goals, more assists. He's created more chances. He does a lot more on a defensive end. He's a lot stronger than Mate, and so that he's a lot better. Yesterday's game didn't really show that. But I suppose Grealish's performance at Old Trafford, that can kind of be excused, and he was playing against some exceptional midfielders. Let's not forget yesterday, and got some very rough treatment from the likes of N'Golo Kante.
Yeah.
I think it's important to mention N'Golo did have a tough time because there were times where he controlled him very well, I have to say, but fouled him on 3 or 4 occasions. I don't actually think he came away with a booking.
No,
if I'm right in saying.
Kovacic may have done, but it was kind of handbags with Kovacic and Jack for the whole game, with the sort of pushing into the boards or whatever. It's just like, I think Jack did, and I think where Jack kind of, I don't want to say went wrong last night, but I think when things aren't going our way, Jack seemed, everyone's kind of like, just give it to Jack, and Jack kind of seemed to move himself from his position on the left into a much more central position, and especially when Hourihane was on, which it didn't last very long, and we'll get on to Hourihane, that kind of left Hourihane in that forward position when Jack was coming deep to collect the ball, and it just wasn't very effective. And especially when you've got midfield, it's a completely different story this season with Mateo Kovacic. He looks like the player he was for when Real Madrid signed him. With Kovacic and Kante, they're two genuinely world-class midfielders, and they got away with the dirty stuff on Jack for the whole game. I thought Chris Kavanagh, the referee, didn't have a particularly great game.
What a surprise!
But Villa fans on Twitter, every time they find out the referee, they go, "Oh, he's terrible." But and to be fair, Chris Kavanagh is a decent referee, but I felt last night didn't have a very good game. Jack got taxed down numerous times, but I think that that sort of frustration in the first half of I actually think we expected to have more of the ball, because the players looked very shocked when they had the ball and they didn't really know what to do with it. So I kind of feel like Jack was occupying a position he wasn't really meant to be playing in, because obviously we know he's got this sort of wide left, we'll call it, position, and I think that's where kind of the frustrations came from. I just don't think many players were really up for it last night.
No, I think we looked shattered, to be honest with you. I thought kind of by about 60, 70, I thought we were like, Horahan looked like he barely could move at points. He was absolutely knackered, and but it's strange because a lot of the players, I watched the interview with Jack and with John, the club put out on YouTube, and both of them referenced that they played the championship, the monster that is the championship season, and the kind of Sunday, Wednesday or Saturday, Tuesday, or that kind of the fixture list, and how they were used to that, and how it was going to perhaps give them an upper hand in this game. But I just thought we looked really tired.
Yeah.
And we've freshened it up, and it's nice to see some new faces in the team, like Marvellous. It was good to see Holte back from that injury. I know we didn't really get to see much of him, but it was good to see him on the pitch. But yeah, I thought physically we looked very drained, and that's going to be a real problem this weekend if that continues. I think yet again we'll see some more changes to the starting lineup. I don't know the severity of Anwar's injury, what are the chances of him coming back, but this team needs a bit of a freshen up. There are some players who, I'm going to use McGinn again as I said earlier, who look like they need a rest, and I think Bjorn could be looking at coming back into this team as well.
Yeah, I think there's players waiting in the wings that there is, and if we're talking about potentially resting John, Henry Lansbury.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I saw someone give him a 2 in his match rating against United, and he didn't really do a lot. But I mean, a 2, come on, he was on for about 10 minutes. Like, you can't give him a 2 for that, especially when United were sort of coming at us for the last 10. But there's got to be players waiting in the wings that are thinking, this is my time. Leicester, let's be real, Leicester, that's a free hit. They're going to do us by 4 or 5, they really are. And we'll come on to that when we sort of do our preview more in depth. But, I would seriously be looking at changing the team, give people minutes. I think even Neil Taylor probably has a shout to come in. I mean, when you look at Leicester's wingers, you've got Gray, you've got Barnes, you've got Perez, you've got Albrighton, and sort of Target's defensive aspect of the game isn't the best, so maybe we sacrifice him and go for someone who's a bit more solid than Neil Taylor. I don't know. I just feel like, as you say, there are players that are sort of waiting for their opportunities.
Absolutely, and the wings are going to be quite, because it's not just the wingers that post. Obviously, Leicester's fullbacks probably after Liverpool the best fullback pairing in the league. In Pereira and Chilwell. And so there's going to be a lot, but midfield is the area because players like Tielemans are so powerful, and DD as well, and if our midfield is as lightweight as it was yesterday, then that's where we're going to have real problems. You look at the sharpness and the alertness of Jamie Vardy, just completely juxtaposes what's going on in our back line at the moment, and that's kind of why I would look at potentially looking at Bjorn in this one, whether that's for Ezri or Tyrone. I don't really mind, to be honest with you. I think potentially Ezri's got more of a claim to stay in the starting lineup, and I actually don't think dropping Mings would be the worst thing at the moment. But yeah, I would like to see Hotte as well, potentially come in and maybe play a central role. That's a position I do want to see him in, and if we are going to be taking out John, we're playing that kind of 8 to a 10, maybe Hotte or Henry. It does come in that fold, but it'd be interesting to see how Dean goes on this one.
Definitely. Now we'll take a look at some questions that we've had come in from last night's game. Right, so now we'll be looking at some questions that we had in from you guys. First of all, from Martin Crispin. Hi Martin. Thanks for the question. Positives we can take away from another small defeat against one of the big boys. How pleasing the differences in levels of abilities between such sides is much smaller than expected. Positives include fitness, fitness, attacking confidence, and Jack. I mean, I didn't really think the fitness was there.
No.
I mean, we kept going to the end, but there was one or two players that did kind of fade off, as we kind of touched on there, really. But no, I mean, we've gone to all of the top big six, and we've made a really good account for ourselves in each game. I think this was probably the worst that we've played, but we took it to Tottenham on the first day of the season. I mean, we shouldn't forget that it was our first Premier League game, so didn't really expect us to win at the new White Hart Lane. Arsenal, we really should have come away with more than we got.
Yeah.
Manchester City was, probably a fair result, but we played well. United, again, a point at United, if you'd have told us that last year, we'd have gone, no chance.
Yeah.
So, and then Chelsea, I mean, it's not all bad news, is it?
No,
let's be real.
It's not, and I'm not. Look, I saw a few overreactions yesterday, and I kind of just want to look. We've played Man United, Chelsea, and Leicester. Well, we are going to play Leicester all in the same week. Essentially, that's a big ask, and it's going to take a lot out of us. And let's not overreact, because we can be so hasty to forget the performance that we put in at Old Trafford and how positive it was. 2-1's not, it's not the end of the world. As I said, potentially actually feel like with a full squad, and if we had 7 days in between the games, then I do think that game would have been a lot different actually. Tammy coming back, obviously, if they'd have played Giroud or Batshuayi from the start, I think it's a completely different game again. So there's a lot of variables which mean that it's definitely not the end of the world, and we can definitely take some positives from it. I just kind of urge Villa fans, because as we've said, who knows what the result could be this weekend. It could be quite a heavy one. Not to overreact just yet.
Yeah, and I think some perspective is what's needed. So if we look at Everton, I mean, first of all, they got absolutely pummeled last night, 5-2, which 2-1 for us. I mean, come on. Everton are 18th, and their next 4 games, they've got Arsenal, they've got Leicester, they've got Chelsea, and someone else.
It's tough, isn't it?
They've got a really tough running, and it's going to look like a month of no points for Everton. Now we've gone. Liverpool have come to us. We've made a really good account for ourselves. Obviously, no points, but it's encouraging when you look at Everton's performances and compared to ours, and then it kind of matches up, doesn't it? Like, we're getting the points from the performances, and they're not. So, I do think some perspective is needed on that. But it's going to be important, because after Leicester we've got Sheffield United away. We've then got Liverpool in the Cup, which I think will probably. Another reason why I think we're probably going to see some players rested today, and maybe even at Sheffield United, because Sheffield United are fantastic.
Yeah.
And I think Dean's going to want a fully fit squad for the Liverpool game, even though they're playing the kids. I think a chance to get us to Wembley is something that he'll want. So, but looking at that, I think we've got Watford away on the 27th.
Yep.
And I want to say Brighton. Away at some point as well.
Yeah.
So we've got
Boxing
a relatively
Day,
easy
Norwich at home.
Norwich at home as well. So we've got I don't want to say it's easy, because there's no easy game, but on paper, when you look at Everton and us, I mean,
well, it's certainly easier, isn't it?
Yeah.
Than what we've been through recently.
I mean, hopefully we'll be creating a bit more daylight between that sort of bottom 3 and us. But I think Villa fans just need to chill out a bit.
A little bit, yeah.
Just a little bit. Now we'll go on to another question we got from Jamie Yap. Thank you for your question, Jamie. Be interested to hear your thoughts on Nakamba. Thought he had a good game, and he's improving each game. Maybe good for him to play against Kante to learn what he needs to improve against the player who plays a similar role to him.
It's unfortunate, because I think we've contradicted both of these questions before we go on to them. I didn't think it was actually Marv's best game yesterday, as we've said, but Kante, there was always kind of going to be those comparisons, and I suppose it was good to see him back, and you can potentially attribute his. Maybe it was just me. Maybe I was being slightly too critical. As you said, it had been a while before he'd got a game, and it's a very tough game to come in, because there aren't many better performing midfielders right now in the Premier League than what's going on at Chelsea. So throwing him into the deep end a little bit there, and perhaps we kind of saw that, but no, good to see him again, and it's nice that we've got these players coming back into the fold, like him, like Holte, that can hopefully come in and just give us that little bit of edge.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting what you said sort of about Jota as maybe a 10. I feel like we'll now sort of move on to our Leicester preview. I think if we're going to... I don't know, I'm conflicted whether we should maybe perhaps play a more narrow formation, because I feel like that would leave us exposed on the wings, and obviously that's where their sort of goal threat comes from. But I mean, I'm looking at Trez. I'm looking not so much at Jack, but with Trez, his defensive game. It's a really difficult matchup, isn't it, mate?
Yeah.
For all of Trez's goals and skills he tries to do, the defensive aspect is something he needs to really improve, and it's something we certainly have missed from Anwar, not being back. And you know, whoever plays right back, whether that be Gilbert or Elmo, and then even Target. I mean, I know obviously we know how good Grealish is sort of on the defence, but you know, Winger's going to have a lot of work cut out for them on Sunday, aren't they?
Yeah, everyone is, to be honest with you, mate. I think we all know how physical Soyuncu is at the back, and he's going to provide a stern test for Wes if he's going to get anything. But yeah, it was interesting. Jack mentioned in his interview that so it's JT that works with the defensive end, Dean takes the midfielders away in training, it's Richard O'Kelly that takes away the strikers, and that's kind of how it works. And I didn't realise that, and I think that perhaps you know, it's the midfield is what's operating well kind of at this moment in time on the you know, kind of offensive end, and it's JT with the defence. You see him spend so much time working with that defence on social media. They're very, you know, the Villa love putting out all those pictures, don't we? We see all the defence standing in the line, and that sort of thing. It's not working. We can't defend crosses. Every time the ball comes into the box, you know, again,
far post.
Yeah. Yesterday it was another example of that. The ball's into the box, again our undoing. It was the case at United, and you know, defending set pieces and crosses. It was again set pieces were our downfall at Wolves for the Ruben Neves goal, and so that's quite disappointing in that regard. And we need to tighten those up if we're going to be able to take anything away from games like Leicester, because they're so clinical, they're so fast, they're so well drilled. Brendan Rodgers has proven himself to be the manager that, you know, everyone didn't think he was when, you know, he was at Liverpool. Kind of never really got the respect he deserved there, and he's come back to Leicester and he's in an environment where he's really thriving now, and he's created a really good team. And if we're not on our game and we are sloppy and we kind of, you know, if we concede goals from crosses, we talked about how important their wings are to their style of play, then we're going to have no chance. And so it's one where, given how tired the players looked yesterday, you don't really kind of be drilling them too hard in training, especially with a game like that at the weekend. But something's got to be done, mate.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of touched on before as well, their fullbacks, Pereira and Chilwell, are phenomenal. Like, they really are. Like, Ricardo Pereira, I don't think gets the respect he deserves.
No, definitely.
Perhaps because he plays for Leicester, and obviously Chilwell gets all the plaudits because he's English. But you know, I mean, he's a player who's been linked with like a £70 million move to Manchester City. I mean, you could argue Pereira deserves a move here as well.
Oh, absolutely.
But you know, we're not going to try and sell each other's players because we don't like that. Talk sport. But it's going to be so tough. And honestly, like, you know me, I'm optimistic as always, but I can't see anything but a Leicester win and them really wiping the floor with us. I just think it's one of them ones where they're just so quick, and they could genuinely get 3 goals within the space of 10 minutes, and it's lights out. Yeah,
no, you're absolutely right, mate. And this is what kind of worries me, is that they're just that alertness, and you play the game as Leicester want you to play the game. If they want you to have the ball, you know, if you've got the ball, it's because they want you to have it. If you haven't, it's because they want to keep the ball, and they'll have a game plan that will, you know, we will have to be on top form if we're going to nullify it. Because they just have that. They didn't play particularly well against Everton at the weekend. You know, it wasn't a great performance, but you know, we say it so often. It's that old cliche. Sometimes that's a good sign of winning teams. If you can just grind out, you keep going to the end. I think it was like 96th minute or something like that where Ian Nacho scored. And so they've just got this ability to just grind out results and keep getting in. And you know, we've kind of Manchester City. I know they got a good result against Burnley, but starting to look a bit hesitant. You know, they're not the Manchester City side that we saw last season or the season before. They're not as good, and with them kind of showing those kind of signs, Leicester might fancy themselves as one of the only true contenders for Liverpool in this title race now. I think, you know, 11 points is the gap between Liverpool and City now. That's going to be hard to overturn. I think Leicester are closer, and so they're going to see this game as you do, as a real opportunity to get 3 points. A lot of friends of Jack's in the Leicester team.
Yeah.
You know, he's good friends with Chilwell, with Maddison, and quite a few with Damari Gray as well. A few of the Leicester boys. So Jack will want to, you know, put in a performance there, especially as Villa Park and with a lot of his friends on the other team. So there's a few different elements where you can look at this game in a lot of different ways, but we're going to have to be on top form to take it, I think.
Definitely, and again, sort of coming back to what we were saying about Mount and Jack, this is going to be another opportunity. I'm sure Southgate will be there. Maddison and Jack, two completely different players, always pitted against each other. Two phenomenal players. James Maddison is a genuine baller, but you know, it's going to be interesting to see who sort of shines brighter, I guess. I mean, I really don't actually know what to say on this game, mate, because I mean, I feel like I've said all that there is to be said. I can't see anything but a Leicester win, and you know, it's nice to see a team that isn't City or Liverpool challenging. It's just a shame it's Leicester, because they're just a bit like, yeah, you won the Premier League and what a season that was, but I would like to say as well, I feel like we were responsible for Leicester winning the Premier League.
Well,
but that's not the story.
That game at the King Power, yeah.
But even the game at Villa Park, I think we should beat them.
Of course.
Libor Kojak, that's a man. But you know, I just can't see anything but a Leicester win, and I mean, obviously I'm going to be upset if we lose, but I expect us to.
Yeah, no, they're kind of superior in each aspect of the field, and we Holte is a player, we kind of touched on it earlier, whereby at Villa Park it's actually been the only kind of game where, if we look at take Wesley's goal against Everton, it's Holte from that central position that plays a great ball through, and that's the service that Wesley needs.
Yeah.
And with Grealish out wide, not in those central positions, those balls where he can turn on the shoulder and that are slipped in behind the back four don't really tend to come from anywhere else. John's not the type of player to play that kind of ball, and I think both his and Connor's passing range is probably slightly longer than that. And so with Jack out wide, he doesn't tend to kind of pick up those positions and play those kind of passes. And so Holte has shown that he can link up with Wesley and give Wesley the service that, let's be real, he hasn't had for at least 3 games. You know, I think I've seen it again, a lot of fingers pointed at Wesley, and I know he's not having the best games. I know he's not influencing too much, but he's a striker that's so reliant on service. He's not a striker that, you know, can pick up the ball, drive at a back four and make something happen. He's reliant on other players influencing his game, and he's not getting that at the moment. You know, if you're hoisting balls up to him, Christensen and Zuma have played in the Premier League. They're far too good, far too experienced to be bothered by some long balls. And we didn't really give Wes too much to feed on yesterday. That has to change if we're going to get anything at the weekend. I need to see Wesley getting more involved. He needs a goal, because unfortunately, with the nature of Villa fans, the longer that he goes, the more people that will turn on him. You know, you almost feel like Wes needs to be scoring every game to keep people off his back. You know, he'll score in a game, and then by the net. I remember, you know, the kind of after the Arsenal game and after the Norwich game. You know, after both those games, he didn't score in the one that came afterwards. And you're so hesitant to forget what he's done for us this season, and he hasn't had the service, and we need to play and focus the team around him, because we've seen how good his hold-up play is at Old Trafford. It came to light. A lot of people saying that's his best game that he's played for us, and again, here we are Wednesday after that Sunday, and people have forgotten that already. So get Wes a bit more involved. Hopefully he can just get us up the pitch with his hold-up play, and get those players like Jack into those key positions. Try and get him up against the centre backs and the full backs one-on-one, and see what he can do there. But you're right, mate, it's going to be very tough.
Definitely. Very conflicted for my fantasy team as well, because I've got Pereira and Schmeichel, but then I've also got Mings, Wes and Jack.
Tough one. It's a tough one.
It's a really tough one. I think that probably about does it. It's been good talking to you again, Dan.
Absolutely.
Podcast. thank you guys for the comments that we've been getting as well. You know, I think you guys have really been enjoying the podcast recently.
Absolutely.
I think it shows in you know how we're enjoying doing the podcast as well. So thank you guys, really appreciate that, and for all the new subscribers as well. Over 1,600 now. I think Dom got a fair few doing the V6 booth last night, so well done, Dom. If you enjoyed the podcast, hit the like button and let us know in the comments below. We really do appreciate what you guys have to say, and subscribe for more. Holte Villa.
Chester's essential. The ball filling this got potential. It's the main man, a hero. He's the main leader of the gang.